Welcome to my channel for Steampunk Tassel Men Part 2. So you want to check out my Part 1 to see the inspiration behind these two pages. And for this left side of the page, I use this broom to be a tassel from that book that has a bunch of copyright-free images. And the gears were from a Tim Holtz rub-on that I had already rubbed on to a piece of paper, and I took a photocopy of it. And the man is I used a stencil and some black paint over top of a jelly print that I had in my stash. And this paper that I'm cutting out is from Stamperia. They have such beautiful paper, so I used these pipes to ground the left side of the page, and I just cut out the edges of some of the details. And next we're going to ink the edges just to get a bit of depth and distressing to it. And we're going to glue those down. You can see on the right hand side of the page the start of part 1 of my Tassel Men. And like I said, if you want to see the inspiration for that, check it out. So I'm just using Aleene's tacky glue and glue stick to glue those down. And then this is another piece of an image from the Stamperia paper that I fussy cut out, inked the edges, glued it down. This other piece, this watch piece, isn't from the Stamperia, I don't think. I can't recall the name of the paper pack it's from, but I liked the vibe it had. So here's that tassel or little broom. It's just copied onto copy paper, and I decided to call this Founding Members of the Tassel Men Guild. And I'm going to do an image transfer, and I realized that the wording would be backwards if I put it on that way, so I reprinted it mirror image wise. And here I'm adding 3 layers of matte medium. If you had a I did have a matte gel that I used once, but I found it too opaque. So you do 3 coats. The last coat you apply it to the surface of this duct tape, and this is a technique I got from Lori Marie Jenkins. And you want to put a good coating on there, let it dry in between. After you've attached it to the duct tape, you got to make sure it dries fully. And also be really careful not to let the matte medium get on the surface of the paper, because now we're using, once it's dry, we're using water to peel off the paper so that we're just left with the ink and the matte medium. And it just takes time, and you just can feel it with your finger where there's a bit of paper left. So this wasn't as translucent as I wanted, so I decided to cut out the words and then just pull off some of the matte medium surrounding it so we could see the shiny duct tape underneath, and we're going to add some texture to that later. I thought, well, what if I tried a glossy medium? Would that maybe be less opaque and show more of the duct tape through? But so I did it with gloss gel medium, and really it's not much better. You can see there that one that's not cut, that's the gloss gel, and this smaller one is the matte medium. So I just went with the ones that I had done already, and we're just fussy cutting that out. So this one I've already rubbed the paper off, all of them, and I'm going to attach that there. And I'm using some alcohol ink markers to color this. Now, I wouldn't go in with your expensive Copic markers to do this, because the matte medium is basically like an acrylic, so it's not the best surface for markers. It can ruin your tips. So I just used some cheap ones I had on hand, and I was quite happy with that. If you didn't want to use your alcohol ink markers, you could probably use a water-based marker, or you could use alcohol inks from the bottle. And the nice thing about this duct tape is it's got a peel off backing, so you just peel it off and stick it on. Next I'm going to antique it a bit with this antique wax from Folk Art, and I used it quite a bit in the part 1, which you can see on the right hand side there. So I'm just applying it with my fingers. I like the consistency of it. Here I'm adding some matte medium to the paper because I'm going to be adding paint, and if I have the matte medium on there first, any paint can wipe away readily and it won't stain the paper. So I'm using a bit more of that wax paint to add a bit of grunginess to that gear. and then I'm going to add it around as to give the images more depth. And then I just kind of fuss around with it quite a bit. And I think maybe I should block out the background so that the pipes stick out more, and I was really happy with how that looked. So I'm going to continue doing that, and then, you know, give it some different shading so that it looks more 3D. This is kind of meditative for me. I just kind of take my time and just enjoy the process. I sped it up for you so you don't have to, you know, watch all my fussying. With the matte medium on that scrapbook paper, or that paper, it really blends quite easily. Next, I take the gears that I had done the image transfer, and I decide to cut out using an X-Acto knife the spaces, and then I fussy cut around the edges. And you have to be careful, like the little pieces could be a little bit sharp, so just be careful if you try this. It can cause some little nicks in your fingers, so proceed with caution. This is not for children. There you can see I was pulling one out of my hand, and I did some fussy cutting here, and I used tweezers to pull out all those individual sprocket spaces. And then I'm going to colorize this the same way as I did the tassel, just with some cheapo alcohol markers. Mainly I'm using this brown bronze color from Stamping Up and a darker yellow Artist Loft, which is a Michaels brand. And just go back and forth between the two colors, using the shading from the rub-on as a guide. I probably could have done the rub-on directly to the duct tape, but I'd already used this rub-on, so I used the photocopy and did the image transfer. I decide it needs a bit more of a turquoise to blend into the page, so I did that with another alcohol marker, and I'm just adding that wax paint to the edges. Peel off the backing and sticker down. And then a bit more turquoise to other aspects of the painting or the page. And here's where I texturize the duct tape. So on the part one, I actually glued down or I attached the mesh, but here I found I could just use the mesh as texture and just burnish onto it, and then I could remove it from the mesh, and it would hold the texture very well. Using that brown wax paint to add a bit of grunginess, but you can still see some of the shine through, which I like. And then adding just a bit of turquoise to blend it in with the color scheme. A bit more of the brown. I found it kind of almost wiped off, so later I'm going to add a varnish over top. But to make it stand out from the page, I added a bit of turquoise underneath, and then added some more little spots of turquoise around the page. And a lot of times I just do that with my finger because I can feel it a bit better, how much is going down. I can make it look a bit more aged. But where the pipes were, it's a bit smaller, so I used a paintbrush there because my finger wouldn't really get that kind of detail. I'm just going back and forth between the turquoise craft paint and the brown wax folk art paint. Blending it in. I decided to add a bit of black to help certain elements stand out a bit more. So this is just some black craft paint. More black craft paint. I hope I'm not going too fast. If you have any questions, certainly leave a comment below and I can try to answer it. I appreciate you watching this. I didn't invent these techniques. It's just I like to share my process and my thoughts, and I like to see what other people are doing. I enjoy sharing, so that's why I'm trying to do on these YouTube videos. So here I felt that pipe ended nowhere, so I added a little piece. And then this corner was empty and I was off screen, but I added a sticker from the sticker book. I distressed it, and then I added a little tassel onto the top hat because I thought that went with the theme pretty well. So I drew that little tassel on there. And here's where I put the varnish on top of the text. So it's founding members of the Tassel Men Guild. I was sort of thinking of the Lollipop Guild when I made this title. So even though it's grungy, it's whimsy at the same time. And I think that's it. So we're gonna do a slow-mo flyover. See all the elements. I think the duct tape adds a bit of shine to it. You could probably do the same thing just with cardstock, but it was fun working with the duct tape. Happy how those pipes popped out and like the grunginess of it. And then on the right you can see the part 1 I did, so if you want to check that out, I'd be happy if you would do that if you haven't already. And thanks so much for watching, and have a great day.